Reasons to carry an everyday carry pistol. There are many, and in this video I'm going to tell you 5. However, before that, I'm going to go into a brief little backstory in this to why do I, of all people, carry a pistol with me as often as I can. So, many of you, I believe, who are watching this video can remember back to the year 2020, a time where a lot of things changed. First, because of a large worldwide pandemic that caused drastic changes in our daily life, where it felt like every single place was closed, any gathering was discouraged, and to the point of almost being risky to various levels of extent. Things were shut down, various practices were put into place, hand sanitizer became scarce, we started wearing masks, there was social distancing, we had to go certain ways in the grocery store, all these various different things that affected our lives. Stores stopped being 24 hours because of this, the high demand and the overall uncertainty everyone felt. The economy fluctuated, prices of things went up and down for various reasons. It was just a wild, weird time. So for several months, we were inside for a while, doing our thing, trying to figure out how to navigate this new world we were finding ourselves in, and frustrated and pent up. And then, of course, who could forget the incident that happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd, the killing of him by the police, and of course that pretty much sparked the frustration and pent up energy that we were all feeling for the previous few months. After being locked inside, we took to the streets. Lots of us took to the streets in frustration, anger. Some came out in support of the police, thinking they were given a bad rap because of this one bad actor. And as a result, we saw lots of fires, we saw riots, we saw demonstrations to which we had not seen in decades. All of which, to the point, we all saw how quickly and overwhelmed the system seemed to become. In fact, there were several parts of Minneapolis where it was on fire. An entire police district was burned to the ground, and it looked like in several major cities that the police were so busy that if something were to happen, they started saying, "You guys are on your own. We have other predators to deal with." So that kind of hit me and puzzled me. Like, So these people who could come and who say are supposed to come and help us in time of need, in our time of need, will not be able to help us. Interesting. So we go through the rest of the year. There's demonstrations all over the place, of course, and we see all these cities deal with it in various different ways. And at the time, personally, I had not owned any firearms. Personally, I was never against them. Being in scouts, definitely fired my fair share of firearms under proper supervision, and had a good time with them. But to me, they were more of a fun activity you can do in a controlled environment. To me, it seemed the idea of owning a firearm in my own home kind of seemed foreign. In addition to the fact that the legal, the financial responsibilities, as well as the limited avenues you could actually use and take advantage of said tools, were quite limited. As I live in a suburban area, there's not too many places you can go freely shoot unless you knew somebody or in that case you're shooting at a local range and with various costs and things. But it wasn't until living through the year 2020 I finally saw the value of the Second Amendment, the full reason why it wasn't just an antiquated thing to have in the Constitution, but it was there to be able to defend ourselves from others, as well as deal with a more than feisty government that seemed to be overstepping their bounds. Because there are times police were doing questionable things to protesters. Rioters are a different story, but to those who were demonstrating peacefully, you got a feeling that they didn't have the complete respect for everyone as there should have been. So turn to the new election, I had some concerns that with the changing of presidents, that there might be some more upheaval from either side of political extremism, and I started educating myself on firearm ownership. And frustrated, I simply just went to the local firearm store and said, "Please just give me something that'd be good for a beginner like myself who knows nothing about firearm ownership." And give me a few options. I went with one that felt the best and also was the least expensive, as I did not feel like I wanted to drop a lot of money on this new hobbies, new interests of mine. But at the same time, I do understand the value of buying a firearm and putting that money to your own personal protection. So the next few months later, I get my concealed carry permit, and then also my area had a weird thing at the time where you had to have a certain license to be able to purchase pistols. So I got all this figured out, went through the legal process of doing all this, and then after a while I found myself realizing, I'm owning this firearm. I probably should start looking at ways to be able to carry this thing that should be practical to carrying such a thing in public. So got myself a holster for this firearm, and started wearing as often as possible. Started actually concealed carry when possible. Learned the ins and outs, learned the laws of my state as well as other states I'd be traveling to. Got more update on that. So become a better firearm owner that way. And still too, up to this day, I carry as often as I can when appropriate, of course, because you can find out that you can't do it everywhere. So as some may assume you can. So that kind of brings me to the 5 reasons I think that, now with a caveat saying that you are mentally in the right space, as well as legally in the right space, as well as the overall seriousness of taking on this new responsibility, which goes into my first reason is simply owning a firearm makes you a more responsible person. Owning an item like this means this is not some silly toy, a shovel, or anything like that. It is a force multiplier. Having one of these things in the wrong hands will accentuate an evil of a person, the violence of a given person. Owning a firearm accentuates your level of responsibility of being able. You must be able to know where that item is, this tool, this constitutional right that we have at all times in your possession. Because if you lose and or misplace this item, in several states, you are by default guilty because you were responsible for that firearm. Other states you're not as much, but at the same time, there still is that feeling of guilt that because of your negligence, you allowed a crime to happen. You allowed this person to kill someone else more easily because you simply were irresponsible with this tool. So keep that in mind. Secondly, this is a big one. You will think twice before entering dangerous situations. Because I hope everyone who starts learning how to shoot firearms and actually carry and own firearms, look up all the very small window of situations you're able to actually pull out your firearm and fire rounds in a public space, much less for self-defense. You'll find out how small that window is, and depending on the state, it is either very, 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 very small or to almost non-existent. So knowing that, first know those laws, and then 2, don't be trying to find yourself into obvious dangerous situations. Don't be filling up your gas tank in the early hours of the morning at night. It's just not a good decision. Don't be hanging around a rough part of town the wrong hours of the day. Don't be trying to enter into obvious public disagreements between 2 or more people. You don't know what's going on. You're just going to get yourself into a bad situation, and unless you feel like that it's going to be worth a mortgage in our house, 2 years plus in court, as well as limbs, your ability to walk, your life, don't enter that situation. Avoid that situation if you can. Please avoid those situations. That's not the reason why you have a firearm. That firearm is not a shield. It will not protect you from bad situations from happening to you. So it will definitely force you to rethink entering bad situations and probably avoid them altogether. Ultimately, being safer without firing a shot. Number 3, you will gain a healthy respect for your firearm as well as others' firearms. You will see firsthand by the process of going on or actually going to the range to some frequency what a firearm can do to other objects, the power that it exudes. Obviously, they're loud, duh. The penetration it can put into other objects like paper, steel, cardboard, etc., you will see the damage it can inflict. You will feel the slide bite at your hand when you put your hand in the wrong place. You will feel the pushback from the recoil of the 9mm you're firing out of the barrel, or the 40 Smith & Wesson, or the 45 ACP, or even the 22 long rifle may startle some of you. So you'll know the power of your weapon, and in the event someone unfortunately presents their weapon on you, whether it be from a criminal or law enforcement, you'll know very quickly of what kind of power that person yields, especially when they're 20 plus feet back. They have total control over you in that situation. Having that respect for that firearm, kind of tying back to the first one, of just how the capabilities of this tool, this object has. Another benefit to carry a pistol is that you will be able to differentiate gunfire from other loud sounds. You can do some quick research into mass violence events, and some will tell you that some didn't immediately exit the area because they mistook the sounds they were hearing for other common occurrences in daily life, like fireworks, like firecrackers, or they thought it was a car backfiring, or there was some heavy construction that just suddenly started in the area, and so they reassured themselves that it was that rather than the projectiles coming from a firearm. When you go to a range, you'll recognize and be able to differentiate what gunfire sounds like compared to other objects. You may even realize, oh, that loud sound right there, that's two lanes down from where I'm standing. That's the sound of an AR-15. That does not belong in a supermarket. I need to get out of here. I can't see them, but I'm not gonna let them find me. I'm gonna get out of here. That's not firecrackers. I'm gonna get out of here and preserve my life. Where's my girlfriend? We're gonna get out of here right now, quickly to the nearest exit as we can, and go from there. Because I truly feel like and believe that if you can recognize what actual gunfire sounds like, you're going to be able to react to situations and emergencies like that much better than if you have no clear idea of what gunfire sounds like outside of, say, media or TV or movie applications. In that way, again, going kind of tying back to a previous one of avoiding and getting out of bad situations, because you've recognized a very obvious warning sign with the gunfire. And lastly, having your everyday carry on you is a means to protect yourself and others when threatened with violence. When faced with someone with a firearm, with a rifle, with a pistol, with a shotgun, you realize then and there that unless you're able to somehow rush them very quickly or by surprise, the weapon from them, they have total control over you and can do whatever they want to you. In that situation, it helps to have that extra option of having a firearm on you to be able to deal with that worst case scenario. Because, again, going back, research most mass violence events, especially if you're in the United States and United States events, the people who survived those events, how helpless they felt. That feeling of helplessness is that they think if only there was some way to fight back, if only there was some way to get out, because they were trapped. There was a mad person with a deadly firearm, deadly weapon in their hands, and because they had that absolute power over everyone else, no one can move and get out of the situation. Which ultimately, that is why you carry a firearm in the first place. Because if you're already avoiding bad situations and doing your due diligence to find yourself away from danger, that in the event that trouble finds you, this violence finds you, and you cannot get away, at least you have one more option to be able to deal with that absolute violence. Alright, so that is the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Please subscribe for more, and please stay safe. And before you get yourself one of these pistols, please review these items, do some good diligent research, and please stay safe out there. Catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.